I've been on this planet for 41 years, and I've heard a lot of stories about people being abducted by aliens, but none of them have ever been able to really show any like evidence or proof that they've actually been in contact with another species. Now, while there's been a lot of stories, some of them more believable than others, there's been one that's always stood out to me, and obviously a lot of people know about that, and that's Travis Walton. And they even made a movie about this, Fire in the Sky. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you see it. They made it back in like the early 90s, and so it's kind of nostalgic for me, considering I was 10 years old at the time. One of the things that makes Travis Walton's story so believable to me is that after all these years, he's still telling the same story. Like 4 years ago, he was on Joe Rogan. He had this same exact story. And I know that some people might believe that, well, it'd be easy to remember that story because he's told it probably a million times. He's wrote a book about it. There's been a movie about it. And so all the events are ingrained in his head. But it's not just his story. It's the story of him and 6 other people. And that's what makes this more believable, I think, than most of the stories that you hear of an abduction. I want to look at this interview with Travis Walton that took place just a few days ago. Again, this dude, I believe him. I believe what he says. Let's just take a look and you judge for yourself. All right, so Travis Walton once again comes out just a few days ago and talks about his experience with being abducted by aliens. Now, I want to watch this and you tell me if you think this dude is full of shit. I believe him. I believe what Travis Walton says.
People in the valley saw a light near Camelback Mountain back on March 13th, 1997. Thousands of witnesses, like Dr. Lynn Kidai, describe a boomerang-shaped aircraft over the valley.
This formation appeared 1,000 feet altitude over Class B restricted airspace, the tarmac, okay? But
I mean, not only do I believe Travis Walton, but even people like this, what does this person have to gain by saying this? And if it was over restricted airspace above a tarmac, there's obviously many of witnesses to these sightings. I definitely believe that there are vehicles that fly in our airspace that we have no idea what they are, where they come from. It could be man-made, I guess.
Entire thing, over a mile wide, equidistant lights, turned as a unit.
Dr. Kidai's documentary about the Phoenix Lights is shown each
under
year in the
something that
valley
big
on the
flying over the top
anniversary
of
of the
you.
sighting. But one guest speaker at the UFO event know more about the phenomenon than anyone else. Travis Walton, his disappearance in northern Arizona in 1975, became one of the most famous abduction stories in the UFO community.
As soon as it came into view, one of the crew screamed out, "It's a UFO." They knew what they were looking at. It was not, gee, what is that light? I mean, we knew we were looking at a flying vehicle.
Walton is a guest speaker at this year's screening. He became famous after he was allegedly abducted by aliens for 5 days near the town of Snowflake, making national headlines, and the story even wound up on the big screen in 1993's Fire in the Sky.
The guy said my body flew through the air
or an alien
and
buff,
landed limp like a dead body.
He describes a beam of light from a metallic craft in the sky. His 6 coworkers also reported seeing that beam of light. And then
I was lying on my back on a table with a light above me. And I was thinking this was the hospital, but in actuality, I was on board the craft and these beings were standing over me.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine being with your 6 other friends and all of a sudden you see these lights and now you've been caught in this beam and you wake up and see aliens? There's a small part of me that wants to believe that this was all just a dream, right? Travis Walton had this dream. The thing that hangs me up on that is that there's 6 other people saying the same thing.
I totally freaked out. To me, to see them face to face like that was so traumatic that just their faces, that was a menacing sort of a thing at the time. But in hindsight, I'm thinking they were trying to help. They were maybe even trying to revive me.
he explains what he saw next.
These beings
and I kind of believe that too, because think about this logically. Let's say that an alien craft landed here, right? And among the wreckage, we found living beings. I think our first reaction would be to make sure that we're safe before we interact with these beings. But I think the next thing that we would do is try to aid them in their survival. Why would we want them to die? You know, why wouldn't we want them to live, to maybe be able to possibly communicate with them, to be able to get more information about what's out there? I think that best case scenario, if an alien crashed here and we could go to another planet and we could abduct an alien to try to help them in some kind of way, then we would. So why wouldn't they possibly, right?
They're smaller stature-wise than us, physically not as strong. I was surprised when I struck out at one of them that it fell back much easier than I expected. It was lighter than I thought it would be.
And my theory on that is that these alien beings probably spend a lot of their time in space, which there's no gravity in space, right? And so their body mass is probably just, a lot less than ours as humans. We have a lot of meat, we have a lot of muscle, and that's because we have to hold up our frame. We have to fight against gravity at all times, so we're constantly building up muscle, building up mass. As to where aliens, if you're always in space and just floating around, you're probably not developing the same kind of muscles and mass that we are as humans on a gravitational planet. That's my theory.
Right. Very large heads, hairless. Normal human arrangement of features, 2 eyes, nose, mouth, ears. But to me, it was terrifyingly different from human.
During Walton's experience, sheriff's deputies searched for him for 5 days. When he regained consciousness, he reunited with family members.
And where was he at for those 5 days? Right? Hang on.
Next to the highway, outside of the town near us where this happened.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. So they searched for 5 days around where he disappeared. When he woke up, they found him by a highway right near where it happened. Where was he for those 5 days? Why couldn't they find him?
And there was a light above me. He was saying, "You've been gone for 5 days." And that was quite a shock to me.
Walton was silent for years after criticism for his story, but now he speaks out to refute the skeptics.
Look, if you had 7 people that really had witnessed a crime, like 7 people who witnessed a murder, that would be an open and shut case in court.
You know what? That is a wonderful point. If somebody got murdered and there was 7 people that came forward and said, "I was there, I seen it," that person would definitely be convicted based on those 7 witnesses.
Because it involved this incredible phenomenon, people still scratching desperately for some way to explain it away.
On Sunday, March 16th, he'll answer questions from the public at next weekend's screening of the Phoenix Lights movie at a new location, the Arizona Heritage Center in Tempe.
It's a shame that we live in a society where we have to question everything that we see, especially on the internet. But after watching this, do you really believe Travis Walton? And not only him, do you believe the 6 other people that claim that they saw the same thing? Whether you believe in aliens or not, I think that you have to agree that there's some credibility to this story.